says, "What are you doing there? You must be bored. You're not doing anything." And I'm thinking, well, that week I'd been in Milan, I'd been in Prague, I'd been in Munich, I'd been to Liverpool playing, I'd been to Chelsea. I'm like everywhere. I'm going, yeah, I just spent time in the garden, mate. Like, Everton want to buy, and I went, I tell them I'll sign. Okay, I'll talk to them next week. Cheers. That was it. That was all the negotiations. I'll tell them I'll sign. Okay, because Everton at that time were a far bigger club than Chelsea.
Yes, folks, welcome back. A very, very interesting guest this time round. I cannot wait to hear this man's story. Former pro footballer, writer, broadcaster, chief executive of Motherwell for a while, and most importantly, an indie music DJ as well. Pat Nevin. Pat, how are you?
I'm very, very well. For a very busy time. Not had much time for the DJing recently, but there's quite a bit of that actually going to be coming up over the summer in some very interesting and weird places. So that'll be fun. But just the football season, especially the way I do it, is unbelievably busy. I'm either at games or traveling, so not be much time for that. But it's good fun. It's not a complaint. I like the job.
No, brilliant. And honestly, I really appreciate the time you coming on tonight because I know you're quite busy. But what I aim for this podcast is to get stories that people have necessarily maybe not heard on previous podcasts. And I thought with you, Pat, that you would be the perfect guest for that because you self-titled one of your books, The Accidental Footballer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of them ones there. Yeah, the whole concept of writing that book. I wrote that book about 3 or 4 years ago, and it's a kind of memoir from when I was a youngster up until the time when I played for Everton. First part of my career, the first half of my career. But the weird thing is, even though I love playing football, it's not particularly what I wanted to do as a profession. Now that's a weird dichotomy. I'm sure you understand, but people don't understand. I only did it because I love doing it, playing football. See, all the other stuff, couldn't give a stuff. Not interested. Not interested in fame, fortune, fair enough. But as long as you make a couple of quid to get by, that's all I care about. And it was really weird that I'd been asked for a number of teams to turn pro before I did, and I was doing a degree, and I went, no, I've come doing a degree. I can still play with my mates. But then Craig Brown, who was the Clyde manager at the time, he seen me playing against his team, and he came over and he said, "Do you want to come and play for Clyde?" And I went, I was about 16, 17 at the time, and I went, "I'm doing a degree, mate, sorry, I'm busy." And he said, "Well, I just scored a couple of goals and one particularly good goal against his team." And it was, I thought I was playing against Clyde reserves. Turns out it was the first team, and I didn't know. And I said, probably wouldn't make it. And he goes, "Well, you've just dribbled round 4 of my first team and the keeper and scored in the line, so maybe you've got a chance." And I said, I don't know. And he said, "Well, we can pay 35 quid a week and you only have to be part-time and it won't stop your studies." And I said, where is the pen? I want to sign that contract because I'm in albums that I can buy with that money, which was my interest, my pure interest at times in music. So I just kept on doing it for the love of it. But I'd spent 2 or 3 years honestly trying very hard and understanding to myself that I'd never be a professional footballer because I didn't want the professionalism to ruin it for me because I wanted to keep on having fun. And then I figured out you can do it professionally, have fun as well. And hurrah, there we go.
Segued me into the next part of you got let go from Celtic as a kid because you were too small. Is that right?
Well, that's what they said at the time. There might have been other things going on in the background as well. But in the end, it didn't matter. They give me their excuses or the reasons. And I think I was thinking to myself, well, I don't care because if you offered me a contract, I wasn't signing it anyway. I've got a degree. I've got other things to do, mate. So that was what they said. So I just shrugged my shoulders and moved on. It was really weird though, because I think a lot of people, well, I know a lot of people that were let go that day were very upset, and I don't take light of the fact that other people were devastated by it because, but it just so happened I wasn't. So yeah, they let us go. But I kept on playing boys club football, a team called Carcross United, and I often tell a story that one of my favourite things is we suddenly turned out to be a right good team, this under 16 team, and we were getting to Scottish Cup finals and things like that. But we had some team, so after one of the games, we went 4-0 in this cup final. And I was walking off. And I was a centre forward in these days. I'd never played in the wing before I went to Chelsea. And as I was walking off, I scored 4. And I could see a scout, a Glasgow Rangers scout, come towards me. And I'm thinking, oh, God, don't embarrass yourself. Because in those days, they didn't sign Catholics. Now, apart from the fact that I was already a lapsed Catholic at that time. And he walked up and said, my name is, and told me his name. And I said, my name is Patrick, Kevin, Francis, Michael, Nevin. Bye. And it's kind of, I didn't take it serious because none of us did at the time. It was just the way it was. And of course, that's all changed now. You know, Rangers do sign Catholic players. But even at that point, I would have said no anyway, whether they would have offered me anything or not. So there was a lot going on at the time. And I even went down for a trial with Ipswich. And Sir Bobby Robson got me into his room at the end of the week. And he was very keen on us. And he said, oh, I'm really struggling what to do. He had a player called Eric Gates, who was an England international. And I was like, I say only 16. And he said, well, I'm really struggling. I said, well, let me help you. I'm not interested. Just come down for a bit of fun. So
that's amazing that it's so different to any other footballer that you speak to that you just weren't interested. You love playing football, but you weren't interested in everything and all the baggage that came with it.
And that never changed. Never changed at any point during my career. I didn't really go to the kind of the fanciest nightclubs and, you know, the kind of weird stuff that comes with it. Wasn't really bothered. Just like going out and playing football. I mean, I liked it so much that I stayed and done more training than anyone else. Yeah. So that's not to think I didn't care, because I was as dedicated and probably more dedicated to it than the actual craft of it than anybody else. Certainly in my teams that I played for, because nobody else was staying in the afternoons or going back in the afternoons. It was just me. So, because I could work on my techniques and things. So I loved all that side of it. And I've always loved, you know, looking into the detail of the game, and be that tactics or specific skills or how skills are used, etc. Even as a kid, before, you know, my dad was a good coach, and we used to go and deconstruct players. And that sounds a really odd thing for a guy to do when he's 10. But we deconstruct the movements of certain players and what they were good at and why they were good at. Now, at the time, I was going to watch Celtic, and they had players like Jimmy Johnson, who was a genius. But and a guy called Betty Auld, and all the great players that won the European Cup in '67, got to final 70. And then there was youngsters coming through like the Gleish, you know, and Lou Macari and Danny McGrain, who were, I mean, world-class players. So I kind of, and David Hay, who's I particularly loved as a player, I would just find out what they were good at, and particularly the ones that could beat players. We'd look at it, my dad would sit and I would watch the games, and sometimes go down to training and say, right, that's what he does, let's go and learn that. And so I just learn every technique and trick. Now, you can't do it always as well as some of them can, because some of them have got innate ability, but you can really learn quite a few of those techniques. So I was doing that really very young and learning all these techniques, but only because I liked doing it and liked being good if I possibly could do. So that's the dichotomy. That's the difficulty that people understand. They think, oh, so you weren't interested. No, is it you too good for that? No, I loved it with a passion, but only that side of it. And it comes through now, where if you look at media stuff that, you know, I'm involved in various places in the media, and people then say, what do you think of, and they ask me something at the background of some player, and I kind of get this glazed over look going, I don't care. It's the football. I don't give a stuff. And it's, they can look at you as if to say, what? It's not that I don't like them. Yeah, I worked with these people for 20 years, and apart from anything else, that wasn't what intrigued me about that world. What intrigued me was the actual talent and the skill.
Yeah, and you were going by that, I guess you were destined to become a pundit later on in your career as well.
Well, see, that's another mistake. Yeah, I tried really hard not to be football, and I failed miserably at that one, right? But of course, if you're disinterested in the limelight and fame, what you should do is not be a pundit on television or on radio. But the weird thing is, it started out as, it was before I finished playing, and Radio 5 Live had asked me to do some commentaries. And I just went along for a laugh, you know, it's good fun, you know, and I just thought, actually, this is good. I particularly liked radio because it was specifically, you get more time, and you can dissect a game. The language you can use is a wee bit different as well. You get time to breathe a lot of the time to explain things. And you can develop a style, your own. And I love sharing things. And that's all you're doing. You're a pundit, you're sharing. You're explaining things that you know, that you've done, that you understand. And as I've got kind of a phrase that I use in my own head, really, it's like a mantra before I do any commentary game, which is try to tell people something they don't know. They might not. Now, the might is very, very big in that sentence there, because football fans aren't stupid. You know plenty of things. But if you've done it at the very highest level, you know, in England and Scotland, whatever, for a long time, and especially if you've done other things in the game as well, like being chairman of the union or or chief executive of the club, you've kind of learned a bit along the way if you've been keeping your eyes open. So hopefully I can sort of give information that other people don't know. So in the classic case of, you know, you see the replay and the pundit tells you that, oh, that just hit the bar. And we're going, yes, I know. I can see that. And that's the kind of stuff that I kind of go, oh, for God's sake. So I'm hopefully trying to explain something there. So the why more than the what.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing. So you spent a couple of years at Clyde, team of the year, got promoted, yeah, and ended up going to Chelsea, got promoted first season there. This football game is easy, yeah?
Yeah, again, that came across in the first bit. I was saying, like, you player of the year. Well, Scotland won the European Championships under 18s. I get player of the tournament. Go to Chelsea. We'll win. I get player of the year the first year I'm there, and we get promotion to the top level. And it's cake. This dead easy. But you know, what people don't take into account is you play a wee bit of football and you think, well, I play at that level, so I could maybe play the one above or the one above. It's just a wee step. Nope. Every step is gigantic. Every step is exponentially bigger than the last one. And that's the bit that people don't get. That, you know, you think you're a good player at a certain level. Well, the next step is the one that everyone falls at. And then the next step is a tiny, tiny few people get through. And when you start getting to the elite level of, you know, top level of the big leagues in the world, even the steps, see the step from being a good player at, say, the Premier League in England, to being a very good player, to being a top 6 or top 4 player, to being one of the best. Every one of those steps is gigantic. They're not tiny. They're really big, and people think that all the steps before that. So it's hard, you know. And certainly, I enjoyed carrying on, and the fact that I was able to stay at kind of roughly the top level for the vast majority of the career, or around about the top level, it's something you got to be kind of pretty pleased with. Something like 850 games, unless you look up Wikipedia, which gets it wrong every time. So don't worry about that. But you know, that's the thing. You talk about, you know, you play with good players, you win things or you don't win things. People gauge everything by that. I don't, never have. I gauge it by, was that good fun? Yeah, that was brilliant. I think we'll stay along for another year here. And I suppose that's the thing. You know, a lot of people, you come out of a game and a lot of people say, well, he got that medal, and that medal, and X didn't get that medal. You're thinking, and you actually think that tells you either A, who was the better player, or B, who enjoyed themselves more? Of course it doesn't, because there's some players who just get a bit lucky as well. So, you know, it was brilliant fun. The Chelsea days were fantastic because also the fan base was so kind to me, and to this day still are. And if you play there for 5 years and get player of the year twice, they kind of stick by you a wee bit. It's kind of nice. Not sure the ownership is that keen on me at the moment. But
it's quite amazing actually that obviously a young kid going down to Chelsea, 5 years at Chelsea, and it's mad to put promotion and Chelsea in the same sentence looking at them now, but that's where they were at that time.
yeah.
Who would you say was the sort of best players you played with when you were at Chelsea?
Good question. It was a guy later in my period at Chelsea called Mickey Hazard, who I really liked as a player. He played for Spurs. Should have done a lot more, should have got much more consideration for England, but he was a number 10 that would be a better player now in the current game than he would be then. Although those of us who played then who would be far better suited to now, but you can't help when you were born.
Mm-hmm.
When you're born. So it was a much more physical game there. It was technically, the technicians could get kicked about quite a bit. Actually, I really like Stevie Clark. Stevie Clark and I had just brilliant understanding together.
It's actually quite amazing you say that, because that was literally one of my next question was, did you play with Steve Clark at Chelsea?
Yeah, Stevie and I were, well, I was kind of right wing and he was right back. So we're complete understanding with each other. And it's quite funny now, some of the things that we did. Like, you talk about inverted fullbacks and underlapping now as if, oh my God, what's an invention? I'm thinking, yeah, we were doing that in 1985. Yeah, we were 86, 87. Yeah, we were doing that. So Clarkey was, again, very good technical footballer. He could be a fullback, centre back, left back, centre midfield, just exactly the same player in them all. Absolutely fine. A bit like, see, Azpilicueta, Chelsea. For those people who, but slightly different, but that sort of guy who could do all those sort of things, but very comfortable on the ball, and an intelligent player as well. So Stevie and I we got on really well. He's really quiet, quite quiet, but intense with a nice sense of humour. But beneath it all, actually, you got to know him quite well, and I really liked his company. And he's got that thing that I like about Scots, or certain Scots, that doer laugh kind of thing, that kind of Jerry Douglas, that kind of a wee bit kind of doer sort of thing. But in actual fact, when you get to know them, one of my best mates is Brian McClare, Manchester United and Celtic in Scotland. And he's exactly the same, just completely doer. But, actually, I like that type of personality.
This sort of dry sense of humour.
Dry as the Sahara Desert after no rain for 25 years. Yeah, kind of like that. But yeah, we're good at that. Scots are good at that. We get that. But sometimes you take it down south and they find that a wee bit harder because it's not instinctive for them. So, but anyway, Clarkey was a very good player, but good number of players around. Kerry Dixon was an astonishing goal scorer. I mean, astonishing goal scorer. But he's technically maybe not the greatest player you've ever seen in life, but does that matter? As soon as it's one of these guys, lots of centre forwards like that. I mean, Haaland's showing a wee bit of that just now. I mean, when he's back to the goal, he's got the most terrible touch, but with a goal in front of him, he's got the best touch in the world. It's really weird what happens to these people. So very much specialists in what they did, those players. But there's quite a few of them were sort of pretty damn good at the time. That I look to the ones that would do well now. There's a guy called Tony Dorigo, who's fullback, played for England many times. One of my great friends was Graham Lasso, who again would be absolutely fine in the modern game. So there was lots of decent players at different times when Chelsea team were good players.
Yeah, and when you were in London, staying there, did your passion for music go up tenfold with the music scene that's in London at the time? Or, I believe that you wrote in the Chelsea Club newspaper an article, but you requested for it to be about music. Is that right?
Not an article. I had a column in the newspaper for a few years, and it was music one. Didn't want to do football. Didn't know enough about football. Just like playing, but I did know music. I had my style of music. So yeah, I agreed to do a column and write it myself. That's the problem with me. I write everything. I do everything myself. So if I write books, which I do, if you don't like them, I can't even blame a ghostwriter. I need to take the blame for it. Like, which is the right way to be. So, I love the music. It didn't get me more interested because I was completely passionate anyway about my love of music. Kegs, Glasgow had a great music scene before I left. But if there's anywhere else that can get more bands to go and see in the world, it's probably London. And so I went down, lots of bands to see, kind of got involved with lots of good friends who were musicians. And then he's had a number of great friends who were, particularly John Peel, became a great friend of mine who's DJ, who's the great breaker, the best DJ in the history of the world of breaking good indie bands. So there's nobody anywhere, no one has come even close to him. I mean, they set up the whole of Six Music just to cover what he did, and it's still not quite as good as what he did. So, and I like Six Music, but so yeah, there's that. There was passion for the music, of other stuff, theatre and the arts. Just you're a young guy, you're learning, you're seeing the world, and if you come to Glasgow, London's not that scary. It's just another city. It's quite big, but as long as you've got the odd friend there, it was good. So music scene was good. There were other temptations, we've always been asked to do, red carpet events or film premieres for big box office films, and I'm going, no, I'm going to go to the art house movie down at the ICA myself or with my girlfriend. I'm not interested in all that showy stuff. So I was probably a wee bit earnest when I was younger, which I've absolutely and utterly lost. Well, not completely, but nearly lost it all. So, but that's what you should be. You should be a bit earnest when you're younger.
No, and that's it. And you've spent 5 years at Chelsea, and then ended up moving to Everton after Chelsea got relegated. Did you move on from Chelsea because they got relegated, or why? How did the move come about?
No, I was leaving anyway. I was coming to the end of my contract. Chelsea needed the money. They were struggling a wee bit and a bit skint. I'd already agreed. I moved somewhere else. So it was kind of understood. They needed money. And I'd been made an offer by Paris Saint-Germain, and that was it. I'd agreed. I fancied living in Paris. It was cool. I wanted to brush up my French as well. And then at the last minute, just before signing for them, Everton came in. And it was a really weird one because I was lying on a beach in Corfu with my girlfriend, now wife, and a guy came running down from the wee taverna that we were, scruffy taverna we were staying in, because I'd stayed in scruffy places. And he goes, Mr. Pat, there is this phone call. And I had to run up this hill, got to the top, and it was my flatmate back in London saying, Everton want to buy you. And I went, I tell him I'll sign. Okay, I'll talk to him next week. Cheers. That was it. That was all the negotiations. I'll tell him I'll sign. Okay, because Everton at that time were a far bigger club than Chelsea. They were a team alongside Liverpool who were winning titles. And if there'd been hints, Inter Milan had been interested. Certainly Liverpool had shown some sort of interest as well. But Everton came in, and I thought, oh, that sounds nice. Like the idea of that. Met their manager when I got back. I called Colin Harvey. Spent 10 minutes in his company. I thought, yeah, I'm happy to work with you, and that's it. You know, this is with me. It's kind of. It's not about selling yourself. It's not about being desperately wanting to be, you know, the most famous or the most successful. It's just doing something you like, where you like it, with good people. So that's what I needed at that point in time. So I went to Everton in the first season. Got a bad injury, cruciate, which is supposed to keep you out for a year. It was in my third game. I got it. And I was back in less than 3 months playing, which is really weird. And I managed to get to the cup final, the FA Cup final that year against Liverpool, where they beat us 3-2. But that was the year of Hillsborough. We played in the other semi-final. I scored the goal in the other one to win us, to get us through to the FA Cup final. But of course, no one's ever seen that goal because they never showed it in football that night, obviously incorrectly. So it was a kind of weird, you know, first little period, but I think we came in 5th or 6th and got beat after extra time in the FA Cup final. And that was considered complete and utter failure for Everton. And if you look at Everton now, like, you know, but that was the standards they were at. And I was happy with that attitude. You know, you want to be the best. You know, you're enjoying it, but you also want to be the best. I think by the second, just about halfway through most way through second season, I was top goal scorer. It was all flying. But when they changed managers, it just got much, much harder. And the new manager didn't get on. So it was a real shame, though, because I loved that place. I loved the Evertonians. It's a great club to play for. Boy, we had some good players there. Wow, we had some good players. Guys like Trevor Steven, who were up to Rangers quite soon afterwards. Actually, I should mention Nigel Spackman played with me at Chelsea because he went to Rangers as well. He'll get annoyed if I don't mention him. But we had some players like Graham Sharp, who was Scotland centre forward, Tony Cotty, who was England centre forward, Kevin Sheedy, who was a really talented player who played for the Republic of Ireland. We were all basically internationals. Everyone's internationals in that team. Stuart McCall with many games for Scotland. Certainly a guy called Paul Bracewell was a decent player, but the best all-round player then for the first part of it was a guy called Norman Whiteside, who was just unbelievable. And had it not been for his injuries, he would have been one of the greats of the era, of any era. He was that brilliant. He was that strong, that fast. People thought he was a big slug, big slow guy. And that was only because of the injuries. Before the injuries, he'd been incredible. So he finished at about 25 because of the injuries. Without the injuries, and everybody that's played with him, you ask anyone that's played with him, they'll say the same thing. He was unbelievable.
And he had a really successful spell at Everton as well, and then ended up going on loan to Tranmere, a club not far away.
Yeah, brilliant. I'm just grosser ever. No, I followed up with the manager, and I knew I wasn't going to get many games, and I wanted to get into the squad for the Euros '92 with Scotland. And if I wasn't playing every week, there was no way I was getting a game. So I said, "Well, I'm going to go on loan somewhere." So Tranmere asked me to go on loan, and I had an absolutely brilliant time. What a brilliant group of players they were. I was amazed by the standard. So I was there for a couple of months, and then got back straight back in the Everton team. They were struggling a bit. Got back in the Scotland team within a week. Ended up getting to the Euros in '92. Yeah, a few weeks later. So it was a kind of I had to take a wee chance, and I took a wee chance. The problem is, Tranmere were more fun than I thought they were going to be. So I had teams like Newcastle and West Ham looking to buy us at the time. And there was another club come in from the Galatasaray, and then Tranmere said, "Why don't you just come back to us?" And I went, "Actually, I was having a ball there." And my wife said to me, "Why do you remember why you play football? Why do you do it? Is it the big club or is it enjoyable?" I says, "It's the enjoyment. It's the enjoyment." She said, "Well, you'll enjoy Tranmere. Why don't we just go there?" And I said, "Yeah, you're right." And they were a good team. To be fair, we were nearly promoted to the Premier League 3 years in a row. We were a superb team. Just lack of finance of, and an extra centre forward would have probably got us to, the Premier League. Some team, really good team. Again, a lot of players who were or became internationals as well. But it's forget all that. It was just brilliant fun while I was there.
Would you definitely say that was the best time of your career?
Best times, hard to say that. I'm probably playing my best football at that point. So it's strange to play your very best football when you've gone down a division, but the game had kind of got quite power play at that point. A lot of physicality. People were looking for very fast players. There weren't that many, players that were very, very, very technical, and the ones that were usually brought in from abroad, like Gianfranco Zola and players like that. So the kind of players, remember Andy Roxburgh sort of complaining that players like me were getting squeezed out of the game down there, and he thought that was wrong. Now you fast forward 20 years, and that sort of players back in fashion again. You deal with it, but I didn't actually care. I mean, there was teams in the Premier League that were trying to buy me back again. Celtic had tried to buy me 3 or 4 times. It was okay. It was fine. There was other possibilities, but saw it. I was having a great time at Tranmere. So, 4 or 5 years at Tranmere were just utter. Well, the first 4 were brilliant, absolutely great fun. Then usual stuff, change of manager, and of course, usual stuff, change of manager. New manager thinks you're a threat, and that's what kind of finished the enjoyment there. But don't be embittered by it. The big thing that people make mistakes in our game, the football game, is they remember the last 6 months when it was bad for whatever reasons, and they forget the previous 4.5 years, which were brilliant. Sod that. That's not what life's like, and life's too short to be bitter. So I kind of look back in the good times there. But I knew at that point in time I was either going to just retire then, or but I was very lucky because little did I know that I had another 3 seasons of playing left, which I could never have guessed.
Yeah, that's like so you kind of alluded to there. You returned to Scotland with Kilmarnock. Why the move back to Scotland at that point? Did you feel the time was right? Were you homesick? Why was it that you moved back at that time?
No, I wasn't homesick. I love England. I love playing in England. That doesn't get down well up here, but I did, and I loved various people in England. It's one of the things that gets me about people, Scottish people saying, "Hate the English." What? You mean you hate all people from Liverpool and all people from Manchester and all the really good people that are that would daft. So no, I loved it at my time down there. So I wasn't homesick, but I knew eventually I would come back home because that's where my wife and I wanted to live. We love our country and we feel more comfortable here, but we didn't dislike England or anyone else. So we're kind of not like that, my family. So we knew we would come back eventually. There'd been a couple of teams that had come close, particularly as I say with Celtic, and it hadn't happened. And then when Kelly came in, I just thought, you know what, at last a wee bit of fun back home, and it's great. And it was as much fun as I thought it would be. Probably my favourite, for pure enjoyment, my most enjoyable year of my career. I'm not saying the best year I've ever played because I was getting on a little bit, but um, it was absolutely great fun. Just great bunch of lads. My dad, who hardly ever missed a game in my life, which is tough when you live in Glasgow and I live down south, but still managed to get there all the time by train. He didn't have to go so far anymore, which was great to Kilmarnock. And we had a good season. I think we were fourth, third or fourth in the league that season. And it was extraordinary because it was a run that came after a really shaky start at the start of the season. And then suddenly we'd have such a brilliant bunch of players around us and enjoyable. And all the other teams like Celtic, Rangers, and Aberdeen, and Hearts and Hibs spending fortunes more than us. But we were doing them like, not always Celtic and Rangers, but we got, I remember the one particular game at the end of the season, we beat Rangers 1-0, which killed their chances of getting 10 in a row, which as a Celtic fan at the time pleased me slightly, I have to admit. But what pleased me more is we were in Europe. That won us a chance to play in European football. So yeah, good times, good manager. I like Bobby Williamson. You know, he came from Easterhouse, just around the corner from me. And just, I loved his talking about doer people. There you go. The dryness. There's Bobby again. And that's why we're going well. So a great bunch. And that's why, you know, I kept on going. But that time, I'd obviously the Scotland squad that wasn't getting in there. And because it wasn't the Scotland squad, I was being asked to do some media stuff. And that was brilliant to get the chance to do both of them, because in the simplest of terms, people get a wee bit uppity about it. In reality, you're paying me to watch a game of football. So I mean, a classic is recently, you know, I did Lazio versus Inter for 5 Live, and then was doing Dundee versus Rangers before it was called off. And then also I had the women's game, which was Chelsea women against Ajax. And I do not take any of them any more or less seriously than the others. They're all exactly the same to me. I don't care if it's Tranmere or Real Madrid. It's a game of football that's really important to the people that are playing and the people that are watching. So you give it exactly the same amount of respect when you're doing that job. So yeah, so I was doing, by that point I was doing that. I was also doing a bit of TV with Channel 5, which again, I was working with good people that I quite liked. And because it was Channel 5, not quite so many people watching, so it was all right. But I found actually I quite enjoyed it. I didn't like the fact that you walk down the street and people would recognize you. I didn't like that, but I did like the technical side of it and being able to do, you know, work with the technology. And so a lot of the technology you see people using now, we were the pioneers of it. It's a company called Sunset and Vine, and we had to basically pioneer it and try it and show what it should be used for. And so it was really enjoyable doing that. So that whole side of it was good while I was still playing. And I thought I'd do that for a few more years, and then suddenly it all changed, and kind of Kilmarnock treated me and the players badly, and I just fell out with them. Just couldn't take. As a former union chairman in England, I was no way I'm going to take that pathetic treatment of the players, of the workers. So I plugged it off and went to Motherwell, and that was just me. And the most recent book which is called Football: How to Survive It, takes that period of Tranmere, Kelly, and Motherwell and really delves into it. The funny thing is, I wrote those two books quite quickly, quite near together. And the amount of people that said after I finished the first one, which was really quite successful, I'd done very well, got Sunday Times bestseller list and stuff, which is really nice if you're the writer. You know, people think you're a thick footballer. No, I'm a thick footballer, but hopefully I can write the odd sentence. And I got a lot of stick people in Scotland saying, well, you must not think much of us, eh? You're not giving us any time. You just finish your book at Everton, you hardly talk about Tranmere or Motherwell or Kilmarnock. And I had to explain, no, that's the reason why. You get the same time as all the big clubs. You get the same respect. You get another bit all to yourselves. So, and which is what I did. And to be honest, by the time the first book was out, the second one was finished. I'd written that as well. And the people that have read both of them, certainly the second one, the stuff that's in it about what happened in Motherwell when I was player chief executive, it's just, there's a reason why I'm the only person in the world that's ever done that. It's mental. It's completely wild. And I mean, it's great writing. It was brilliant writing about that, because so many adventures and strange things and mad things that happened. But it wasn't always enjoyable at the time at that point, I'll be honest with you. That particular part, the end part of Motherwell, was the one period of my career that was not enjoyable.
Here's the thing. I was going to ask you about that, but why bother? Go and buy the book. Go and buy Pat's book.
Well,
That's it.
that's, to be honest, I'm not saying, don't say, hey, I don't try and sell it on people, but the lovely thing is a lot of people have been taking both of them on holiday over, and I think I've had one person who said they didn't absolutely love it, and that person then owned up to the grudge that he had against me. A number of people from his football team that he supports hate me, so I could have written the best book that Tolstoy and Dostoevsky and Gogol could have written together, and it wouldn't have pleased them. But the point is, most people that have read it have really enjoyed it. So I kind of, if anyone does get around to reading them, I just hope you like them, because I wrote them because I enjoyed writing, and I hope to give a wee bit of insight what it's like as an outsider, which I very much was inside that world. Because you've read many, many books of insiders, and you think, oh, that's great, an insider. But you remember, they're an insider. They see it from the viewpoint of the players. Well, I was inside, but I was a complete outsider inside. So I'm actually standing once removed from them thinking, you're all weird. The things you do, you think are normal. I think are really strange and explaining. So it was good fun doing that. It was really good fun. I loved writing it. And again, if you know that people have been kind enough to read it and like it, so that's all that matters.
Yeah, and you went into media latterly in your playing stages, and then did you then go into that full time pretty quickly once you finished football?
Well, once I finished, it was very strange because when I left, I was chief executive and player at Motherwell, but I was also doing a bit of Five Live and a wee bit of telly here and there. But it wasn't a job, really. It was just something I did now and again. But then in my second 2 years at Motherwell, purely as chief exec, I stopped playing. I started getting offered. Channel 5 started asking me if I wanted to be their main pundit, because if you played international level, you played top level England, top level Scotland, you've been chief exec of a football club, and you've been chairman of the union, you probably know just about every angle of football. Other than management, you've got every angle covered. So they were saying, well, and you love the technical side of the game, right? So they were keen to have me. So I went to work for them for a wee while and thought, actually, that's more enjoyable than chief executive stuff. Really a lot more enjoyable. But I felt as if I should stay on as long as I could to try and help the club, because it was struggling at that point in time. Complicated reasons. Again, you'd need to read the book. Eventually gave up on that for a variety of reasons for the chairman. And I disagreed about, he put the club into administration. I disagreed with that idea. But I didn't fall out. I just went, oh, that's what you want to do. It's your club, mate. On you go. I'll go and do something else, which I did. But within a month or two of leaving, I was on a plane to South Korea to cover the World Cup with Radio 5 Live. And in reality, you're going to games. There was one game I went to see. It was Brazil v China. It was an island of Jeju. It's a holiday island that they use in Bond movies, right? And I was staying in this hotel atop a cliff with the best beach with rolling waves that I've ever seen in my life. And it was 80 degrees, and the Brazilian team had Rivaldo and Ronaldo and Ronaldinho and all that. And I'm thinking, these stupid gits are paying me for this. Honestly, I give up. And I thought, no, this is it. If I can hang around and they're willing to sort of pay me for doing this, I'll do it. And I was writing a bit then as well for various newspapers. So I was very lucky. And I often say that my wife and I have a bit of a laugh. She thinks I'm a very fortunate chap, that things kind of fall. When one job falls, another one just kind of slightly appears. And don't go and chase them. But you're always aware of things and make yourself available and hopefully train yourself up for them. So I did that for quite a long time. So it's writing, bit of TV, bit of radio. This funny thing is, just before we go, I love this. I was in Scotland recently. I live in Scotland, I live in the borders. I'm talking to you from the Scottish borders, doing a speaking engagement. It was great. I was brilliant from a Scottish guy, and he said, Pat, it's great. You were brilliant. You're really funny, and I love your after-dinner stuff. I mean, that's good laugh. Thanks. He says, what are you doing now? You must be bored. You're not doing anything. And I'm thinking, Well, that week I'd been in Milan, I'd been in Prague, I'd been in Munich, I'd been to Liverpool playing, I'd been to Chelsea. I'm like everywhere. I'm going, yeah, I just spent time in the garden, man. Like,
Oh.
if people don't watch, if you're not on the thing that people are watching, they think you're not doing anything. And I've kind of never been busier in my life doing the media stuff because there's so much of it. There's huge amounts of it, you know. And I for years I had a job in Ireland. Well, I was doing one in London and doing one here in Scotland and doing one, and it's just lovely to do these jobs. And when that guy said that to me, for a moment, a tiny millisecond, I thought, am I offended? And then I thought, it's taken me a long time, but I think I've nailed it. Doing a job where you're not, you can walk the streets in your own country and you kind of don't really recognize much. You don't get people pointing at you. But you're also doing the kind of work you like doing. So I kind of think I don't know if I've nailed it, but I've kind of fell into it exactly where I want to be. So it's good times.
No, brilliant. Oh, honestly, Pat, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. And please go and buy the books. The books sound fantastically interesting. I'm certainly going to go and buy them now, 100%. And thanks for your time, Pat, because it's I know you're really, really busy at the moment. So, but apparently you're just in your garden anyway. So,
yeah, obviously, nothing else. Anyway, pleasure. Good luck, everyone who's listening.
No, thank you very much. It's been really fascinating to hear your story. And thanks to all you for watching. Cheers.